Welcome to the Family Lamp, where every story is a light for your heart and your home. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you had nothing left? No strength, no hope, no way forward? Sometimes, it's in those very moments, when we feel empty, that God shows up in the most unexpected way. Today's story is about a woman with only a handful of flour, a hungry child by her side, and a heart full of fear, until God sent a prophet to her doorstep and everything changed. So gather your family, open your heart, and let's begin. Long ago in the land of Israel, the people had drifted far from God. They worshipped false idols like Baal, and no longer listened to God's voice. Their leaders were no better. King Ahab and his wife Jezebel were leading the whole nation down a dark and dangerous path. But God is never silent when his people are in trouble. He raised up a bold prophet named Elijah, a man who feared God and spoke the truth. One day, Elijah stood before the wicked King Ahab and declared with great courage, "As surely as the Lord lives, the God of Israel whom I serve, there will be no rain or dew in the land, not until I say so." And just like that, the skies shut, the rain stopped, the rivers dried, and a great famine began to spread. But even in this time of judgment, God already had a plan to take care of his servant. God told Elijah to leave the city and hide near a small stream called the brook Cherith. There, Elijah found water to drink, but that wasn't all. In a miracle only God could do, ravens, black birds from the sky, brought him bread and meat every morning and evening. Imagine that. Birds becoming waiters, feeding God's prophet in the wilderness. Even when all of Israel was in chaos, God provided. But after some time, the stream dried up because there was still no rain. Then God gave Elijah new instructions. God said, "Go to Zarephath, a town in Sidon. There is a widow there. I have commanded her to take care of you." Now this might seem strange. Zarephath was not in Israel. It was in a foreign land where people worshipped other gods. And a widow. In those days, a widow was usually very poor, with no husband to protect or provide for her. But Elijah trusted God and walked the long dusty road to Zarephath. Ahaz approached the town. He saw a woman gathering sticks. She looked weary. Her clothes were worn. Her face showed the exhaustion of a mother fighting to survive. Elijah called out to her, "Please bring me a little water in a jar so I can drink." The woman turned to fetch it. Then Elijah added, "Oh, and bring me a piece of bread." She paused, her eyes filled with sorrow. She looked at the stranger and said, "I don't have any bread, just a handful of flour in a jar, and a little oil in a jug. I'm gathering these sticks to cook a final meal for me and my son. After that, we'll die." She was at the edge, a widow, a mother, holding on to hope by a thread, just trying to give her child one more meal. Elijah looked at her with kindness and spoke gently, "Don't be afraid. Go and do as you planned. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me. Then make some for yourself and your son." And then he gave her a promise straight from the Lord. The jar of flour will not run out. The jug of oil will not be empty until the day the Lord sends rain again on the land. It sounded impossible, but the widow had a choice: to hold on to what little she had, or to trust the word of the Lord through his prophet. She chose faith. She went back to her little kitchen. She took the last bit of flour. She poured out the remaining drops of oil. She made a small loaf and gave it to Elijah. Then she made some for herself and her son. And something incredible happened. The next morning, when she looked inside her jar, there was still flour, and the oil jug still not empty. The day after that, still enough. And the day after that, still there. Day after day, the flour never ran out. The oil never dried up. Just like God said that Elijah stayed with the widow and her son during those long, dry days of the famine. Every time they sat down to eat, they witnessed a quiet miracle. The flour was still in the jar, and the oil was still in the jug. Not once did it run out. Not once did God fail them. Even when the sky stayed dry and the ground cracked with hunger, God's promise stood firm. He didn't remove the famine, but he was faithful in the middle of it. The widow had feared she wouldn't survive another day, but because she dared to trust, she discovered a truth we can all hold on to. God is faithful even in the famine. He didn't wait for the rain to return to provide. He stepped into her emptiness, met her in her fear, and filled her every need, one meal at a time, one day at a time, until the rains came again. This story isn't just about Elijah or the widow. It's a story about God's heart, a God who sees, who provides, and who keeps his word. Let this remind us, in seasons of drought, God still brings provision. When everything around us runs dry, his goodness does not. He doesn't need abundance. To perform miracles, he needs our trust. So if you're facing your own kind of famine, whether it's in your home, your heart, your finances, or your faith, Remember this widow. She had almost nothing, but it was enough for God. Because God is not just faithful after the famine, He is faithful in the famine. Thank you for watching. May this story remind you that you are not forgotten, and that God sees every tear, every prayer, and every need. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the Family Lamp. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that lights up your heart. Until next time, keep trusting, keep hoping, and keep remembering. God is faithful in the famine.